Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And today's episode is not the normal Thursday Q&A episode because I didn't do one this week because there weren't enough questions. So I'll put the question box up again during the week and hopefully we get some more for next week and continue on with them. So what I decided to do this week was just replay an episode from nearly 2 years ago. So it was the 18th episode. And for some reason, it didn't get a lot of downloads compared to the others at the time. So there'd be a lot of people who have tuned in since that time that wouldn't have heard the episode. And it was one of my favorite episodes to do. So I think it was good for people to listen to. So just replaying that one now with John Hall from Cactus Country, not a landscaper, but within the green industry and just an intelligent person to talk to. So I'm leaving the intro in of the actual chat. So I'll talk about more of what's involved in it then, But yeah, this thing was an awesome chat, so I thought I'd include it. And it's also interesting to listen back to what the early episodes are like and how I started them. I didn't even realize that I didn't start in the same way as what I do now. And it's also got the intro and outro music as well, which I got rid of. I don't know when I got rid of that, but a little bit corny to listen back to. But yeah, I think it's a good episode worth replaying. So here's a replay of episode 18 with John Hall from Cactus Country with the intro music included. Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett, and in today's episode, I'm talking with John Hall from Cactus Country. The Cactus Country is a family business where John and his folks work at in Strathmerton on the Victoria-New South Wales border. And if you haven't heard of them or seen their Instagram page before, it is well worth checking out because some of the photos they post up on there are absolutely incredible. And even better would be to go out there and experience it for yourself. We talk about all the different things that they're doing out at Cactus Country. So there's quite a large area there already where they've got planted out, but they're also expanding that and increasing all the different ways you can experience Cactus Country out there. We touch on all things related to Cactus Country and the landscaping industry. We also branch out into other things like meditation and NFTs. So it's a bit of a different chat, this one, but I think I enjoyed doing it, and John's obviously a really nice person to talk to, so the conversation went pretty well. So hopefully you enjoy it too. And I started off by asking him how he got into the industry in the first place.
Cactus Country started back in 1986 and then opened in 88. So I was born in 88. So growing up as a child, the backyard was a cactus garden, and I didn't know anything any different. I remember my sister Sarah and I used to race to pick up the phone as kids, entering the phone, welcome to Cactus Country. And I don't know, we just grew up surrounded by tourists and tourism, and we had the farm here as well. So we got a 150-acre property here. So growing up was pretty interesting. There was always some interesting characters around. There was always something sort of interesting happening. And I guess, childhood was tough to some extent because Dad was trying to establish this garden and at the same time manage a massive commercial farm growing green zucchini and yellow squash. So we had some good years, and we also had a lot of rubbish years and struggled financially to get to this point, I guess. But in the last 3 or 4 years, it's really taken off with the help of social media, and we're at a point now where we really get to do what we love on a day-to-day basis, which is pretty incredible. I guess that's what everybody gets into business or does something that they're passionate for that reason, just to be able to do what you love.
And have you done any work outside of Cactus Country, or you just continue the family business the whole way?
Yeah, bits and pieces, but mostly I've been here. And so I think growing up and running the farm with Mum and Dad, that was a huge learning experience for me that would have enabled me to go anywhere really, because when you're managing, 20 to 30 backpackers picking green zucchini, talking to the agent on the phone about what's coming and how much and what the price is, there was always a lot to manage. It was really manic. There were long days, a lot of stress. So after that, kind of anything's easy. And I remember finding social media a bit of a distraction from the day-to-day busyness of the farm. And yeah, I'm really glad that I went down that track, because it's obviously paid off now. But I went to Melbourne, in answer to your question, I went to Melbourne for a bit over a year in the end, but I studied myotherapy. My sister is 3.5 years older than me, and she got into myotherapy when she left school. And I was always interested in the treatment side of helping the body. So yeah, I liked physiotherapy and osteopathy and myotherapy. And I just did really poorly in school as well. So I was never going to get into any great sort of university, and luckily got accepted into this myotherapy course, probably because Sarah was already there and she was a gun. So they were probably like, oh, well, if she can do it, maybe her brother can too. Anyways, education is not for me. So I stayed there for a year, and then I was working as a forklift driver and playing semi-professional basketball. I was playing Youth League Division 1 at Bulleen, and Mum and Dad had a good year on the farm, and they said, we're going to go travel around the world and see all the best gardens. So I was like, can I come? So yeah, managed to hitch a ride. And when we got back, I really felt like I needed to pay them back for the experience they'd just given me. So came back and started working on the farm, and I guess the rest is history. I've done a lot of traveling since then, and I'm very lucky that, you know, the zucchini and squash season has an off season, so you can sort of get away for a few months of the year. And I did that for quite a number of years and seen a lot of the world. And yeah, now back here, and sort of sky's the limit, seemingly. You know, people keep coming through the doors, and exciting projects keep getting completed. And yeah, it just seems like a never-ending list of things to do.
So the gardens that you went to see, you know, around the world, were you and your folks looking at cactus gardens, or was it a bit of everything?
Yeah, a bit of everything. We got really lucky. Mum and Dad approached Lotus Land and got a membership at Lotus Land, which is in Santa Barbara. And normally this garden, it's a very sort of elitist garden, you might even say, in that a lot of wealthy people donate money to it. And if you go there as a general visitor, it's expensive to get into, and they only sort of open 1 or 2 garden trails at a time. And when we went there, we got invited in as a guest to this event, and it was sort of like you had to put in an application, and if you got accepted, you could go. But it was a day where the whole garden was open. There was music, there was food, there were things happening. And so we met some incredible people. Like, I think Oprah Winfrey lived in Santa Barbara, or has a house there. Like, it's a really like wealthy region, and this garden is incredible. So yeah, like I remember chatting with millionaires and stuff and just thinking, wow, this is pretty cool as a 20-year-old, just wandering this beautiful garden, chatting to some interesting people that I probably never would have got the chance to otherwise. So yeah, it was a really fun trip. We went to Hawaii, Canada, Mexico, the States. So Mum and Dad went to the Hunter Valley Gardens as well, and the Huntington Gardens, not the Hunter Valley, the Huntington Gardens and the Desert Botanic Gardens in Phoenix. And I went over to Europe when they went to those ones, and then they met me over in Europe as well. So yeah, we to some extent, Mum and Dad were really after seeing like the best cactus gardens in the world to see where we ranked and get ideas. And Dad's super competitive too, so I think he's trying to create the biggest cactus garden in the world, that's for sure. It's up to about 20 acres now, and I think it'd have to be up there. You'd have to rank it. It'd be up there in the top 5 or 10, or at least, I reckon.
Well, I did see you had a recent award from TripAdvisor that you were ranked in the top 10% of like just worldwide sightseeing destinations. So there wouldn't be too many cactus gardens in that, I would have thought.
Well, we were blown away by that, and I don't know how they calculate it. I was hesitant to actually even promote it, because I thought this is obviously just some computer generated thing based on the amount of reviews you get or something. And I was like, nobody's going to care about this. Like, you know, it's just, yeah, whatever. And I put it up, and the response was enormous, and it really surprised me. But I think to some extent, our community, like our OG fans, they've come on a journey with us in our garden. And I think that because of the way that we do, the way that we interact with our community is very authentically us. People get really excited to see what we're up to and what we're winning. And yeah, we've applied for the Victorian Tourism Awards this year as well. So fingers crossed, we get a good result there, because I think that'd be really exciting, something to be really proud of, I reckon.
What was the goal initially back when your old man started that Cactus Country? Was it to make it like a tourism destination, like it is now?
Yeah, Dad's got like a vision that's enormous. You know, he thinks that we'll be over 100,000 visitors in the next sort of 4 to 5 years, maybe. And when he was in England, he moved to England and was working over there, and maybe he was in his early 20s from memory, and he saw the Chelsea flower show and just was blown away. And he grew up, his dad was a cactus collector as well. So Dad thinks from about age 5, he was already propagating cacti and helping his dad with his cactus collection. Like, they used to go in garden shows, like open garden schemes, and his dad used to win a lot of awards, and Dad reckons it was all him. Being the eldest of 6, he was in charge of the gardening, and if things didn't get done, he was in trouble. So he really loved the garden. I think he saw gardening as maybe even an escape, somewhere he could go and really switch off from the world and enjoy doing something he loved. So that doesn't seem to have changed. It's just that now he's got 20 acres of garden, and yeah, he's got the ability, I guess, and the resources now to do some pretty crazy creative things. So yeah, I think the vision was always there. I think he always knew he was going to create something special. And I think the hard thing for him would have been convincing Mum and I and family and friends, because growing up, it wasn't obvious what this was going to become. They bulldozed the peach orchard to start planting cacti in the late 80s. And who would have done that at a time like that? And with no money and a young family and really struggling to survive at times, I think he would have faced a lot of judgment from his peers over the years about, like, why are you doing this crazy thing when you could be, you know, going and getting a 9 till 5 and having a much easier lifestyle. So yeah, hats off to him. He had the vision and he really stuck at it and pulled it off. And I think that's quite admirable these days.
Yeah, and you've got plans. I know it's 12 acres at the moment of the Cactus Garden, but I saw a video where you're expanding that, so it's going to be up to 20, is it?
Yeah, it's it's definitely pushing 20 acres now, and there's just parts of that 20 acres that need a few more plants to fill things out. But I don't know whether you've heard of them. We got one of these Avant machines. I don't know whether you've ever seen them. I think Clint's got a couple of them now. Yeah. Oh, like, they've been a game changer for Dad, because he's got a really bad back, and he's 67 now. So for him, the other day, I went out into the new part of the African gardens, and he's put this brand new fence up, and I was like, whoa. I just don't think that it would have been as easy for him to do that in the past. But, you know, we've got a trencher on it, so he's trenched a curved like section, and then he's put all these poles in upright, and he's doing some incredible stuff out there because he's got the tools to do it now, whereas you couldn't have done that with just a tractor and a backhoe or something. You know, like, it's a versatile machine that's really helped him.
Yep. And you mentioned earlier at the start how about 4 or 5 years ago you got into social media. Was that anything to do with, because I know the first I heard of you was when Phil Withers did his I See Wild Garden.
Yeah, that was massive.
Was posted about Johnny Cactus.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So that was the first I heard. So is that about when you started doing the social media?
No, I remember, God, how long ago would it have been? Maybe 10 plus years now, seemingly. It was really early, because I remember I hated the farm. I hated farming. I hated the stress. And I remember a backpacker said, why aren't you on Instagram? And I was like, what's Instagram? And yeah, like I said earlier, just took that first photo. It got 70 likes straight away. And it was just an endorphin rush. And I thought, whoa, this is crazy. Like, people from all around the world have seen this. Like, what? And I think that a part of the success I've found with social media is that if you take it too seriously, then it prevents you from doing well at it. If you do it for the likes or for the comments, then you kind of lose your way. You just have to be authentically you and tell your story and show people what you're up to. And, you know, it was really slow growth at the start, but then it reached this point of mania, and it just took off. And you know, now we just continue doing what we've always done and just enjoying showing people the gardens. And I'll do little live tours and show people around, and I'll interact with, like, I reply to every message, not every comment, that's nearly impossible, but I reply to every message, and some of them are literally like, you know, I've got a problem with my cactus, it's rotting, or I hit it with something and it's damaged, what do I do? And it can be everything from that to, do you have this big cactus that I'm chasing? So yeah, it's an interesting world, social media. I really love it.
Yeah, I was watching the live you did, the most recent one, I think it was last weekend maybe, but yeah, there was like a person from North America on there as well. So yeah, I find that fascinating as well.
Yeah, people were tuning in from all over the world. So we've got a big following in Asia and South America and the States. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
And with the income, do you get that mainly from tourists, or do you also get that due to a lot of selling as well?
It's a bit of both. Probably 70%, or maybe at least 50 to 60% of our revenue on a daily basis would be garden entry when we're open. And then about 20 to 30% would be plant sales. And then obviously with COVID, that's changed dramatically. We realized really early on that we didn't know how long COVID was going to go for, and that we should probably think about some other markets and some other things that we could do while we're locked down. So I'd already created a page called Cactus Country Plants on Instagram. And so we basically just picked that up and went a little bit heavier into that. And Tan is our nursery coordinator. So she's in charge of the Instagram Cactus Country Plants, and she's spending hours a day on Instagram selling plants from around the garden and from our plant sales. And then we just package them up and send them off, or if they're big orders, I'll do deliveries. So a couple of weeks ago, I was down sort of Phillip Island way, and yeah, I travel all over, dropping off big orders and meeting awesome people. Like, I've got to say, that's one of my funnest jobs, is to meet the people who buy our plants. Yeah.
When I was talking to Clint Bramson from Bamboo South Coast, he said similar thing when he's going around, like speaking to even the suppliers where he gets his plants from. Like, there's plant people are good people. Yeah,
they really are. Like, you know, different industries really attracts different people, but the plant people, the plant nerds, the plant lovers, they're some of the most relaxed, fun, enjoyable people, and they seem to have a lot of empathy as well. Like, they seem to want everybody to get along and have a good time. So yeah, we're very lucky. It's a great community.
And going back to Phil with us, that International Flower and Garden Show that he did you provide a fair chunk of those cactus that he used in there?
Yeah, well, I dare say we provided all of the cacti and some of the big agaves that were a big feature. That install was a real eye-opener, because we were very early in the growth of our business, and that certainly put the spotlight on us. And yeah, it was really interesting to see, like, Avoca Landscaping helped Phil pull that off, and it was a massive project. It was much bigger than I ever envisaged it was going to be. I always just said yes to everything. So if somebody called me and say, hey, can you do this? I'd be like, yeah, no worries, got you back, let's do it. Now we're a bit more selective, but that was a yes that turned into an incredibly massive project. Like, I think I did 2 or 3 days of deliveries from Strathmerton to Melbourne, and tried to help them put a few big plants in while I was there. And it was just mental. It was mental.
And did you get any reaction from being involved with that? Like, from
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what I probably realized post-event is that gardeners specifically aren't necessarily always our audience. And even though it was an exciting and fun project, and it was so much fun to win gold with Philly and Avoca, and just like getting up on stage and talking to crowds of people who were walking past the garden was an absolute rush. It's not something like, if you measure energy and input versus reward, it wasn't high. You know, our audience is more people who are looking to escape for the weekend and get away. We've got a genuine tourist market that, you know, like Melbourne is probably 70% of our visitation. So when Melbourne's shut down, it's actually hardly worth opening, because, you know, the regional Victoria's population is only so big, and for regional Victorians, going and seeing a cactus garden doesn't seem to be a high priority for them. And so we'll still open on weekends during regional Victoria opening, but really the magic happens when Melbourne opens up, because you get all your photographers and your influencers and you know, like some people plan their trip to Cactus Country for months before they get here. Like people who travel down from Queensland and Canberra and Sydney and just spend a few days in the region and soak in the sunshine and enjoy what we've got here. So yeah, we're very lucky. Like we've had, give you an example, when the international tourism was open, we had one guy flew in, his name was Cactus Lee, and he wanted to get engaged to his fiance or his girlfriend. So he flew from China to Melbourne, drove her and her parents to Cactus Country, proposed to her in the garden, got back in the limo, went back to the airport and flew back to China. And we had another couple, I just happened to bump into them while they were in the gardens, and I was like, oh, where are you from? And they were like, oh, we're from China. And I was like, oh, great. So like, how long are you in Australia? And they're like, oh, we're only here for 3 days. So we've gone to Phillip Island to see the penguins. We're coming to you, Cactus Country. Then we're going to Sydney and flying home. And I was like, wow. So it just, every time it just blows our mind. Like, we're just so grateful. It's just been a hell of a ride. It's been such a journey.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that it's a destination place, because I have been following that hardcore until I'd spoken to Graham and Clint, and they recommended me I chat to you. And some of the photos that you post up are just incredible of the space. It's just,
thanks, man.
It looks like an amazing place. So I can't wait to get out there eventually once I get on top of work.
Mate,
but like all the weddings that you do, it's just crazy how beautiful it is.
You've got to come and see it in late October, early November. So like put a couple of days aside, because you never know which is going to be the day. But it's stunning. Like you can't, the photos don't even do it justice. Like you can take, Dad did a video of flowering season in 2017, I reckon. And it had over like 7 million views or 8 million views on Facebook. And people don't understand how beautiful the flowers on cacti are, and the range of colors, and how when they flower, it's a mass flowering on one plant, so much so that you can't even see the cactus underneath it. And so, yeah, it's just, you can't do it. I've tried explaining this, but you just can't. It's one of those things you've got to see with your own eyes.
I reckon anyone who's tried to take a photo of the sunset would understand that, because when you see it, it looks amazing. Then you look at looking through your phone, and think, it doesn't look like that.
That's right. Yeah, you nailed it. You got it.
And I also saw that you're involved with the Chukamoama Tourism Board.
Yep.
How much of a struggle has that been? How long have you been on that for?
I was trying to figure it out the other day. So I've been chair since November at that AGM, and prior to that, I reckon I might have been there for 6 months or a bit over 6 months. And yeah, the then chair Dick Phillips called me one day and said, we've got an opening on the board, and we can see you're doing great things with social media, and if you're interested, we'd love to have you on the board. So I was like, wow, I was just blown away, like, to get a random call like that. And you know, I've always had involvement in our local tourism here in Moirashire, and Chukamoama is really like the destination on the Murray. It's what everybody knows. It's only 2.5 hours from Melbourne, so it's a super popular destination. And so, yeah, I was blown away by the invitation. So I said yes and went over there. And yeah, it's interesting being a part of a tourism board, because there tends to be a lot of politics and a lot of passionate people with different views of how things should be done. And so when I took on the chair role, my goal was really trying to help everybody collaborate and coordinate and get the best bang for buck, and to all work together to promote the wonderful destination that we have. And yeah, we've made some good headway. I think my goal as a chair is to listen to everybody and have the best people in the room in their industries, and listen, and then figure out, how do we collaborate, how do we work together and make it happen. So yeah, I'm probably a different chair to what I've seen a lot of other people chair, in that I feel like sometimes people go in there with a preconceived idea of an outcome, and I don't. Like, I've got ideas and I'm passionate, but at the end of the day, if 6 out of 10 board members want to do things a certain way and it's different to the way I want to do it, then that's the way we're doing it, and off we go.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. There's a lot of people who will go into something with a particular mindset, and they'd rather, even though they're wrong, they'll commit to being wrong so that they don't prove that they were wrong, than actually listening and changing their opinion. So that sounds like you're ideal for that.
Yeah, listening's the biggest part.
And going back to Cactus Country, I saw you got some ice cream, and you were looking to employ a chef there. So do you have a lot of, like I said, you got a restaurant there as well?
Yep. Yeah, we do. It's been a bit quiet with COVID just because of the restrictions, but and we're about 1 kilometre off the highway. So there's a long dirt track. You pass an orchard of oranges, and you cross a channel to get to the car park at Cactus Country. So it's not like we're on the highway where people can stop off and grab a burrito on their way to work. And so, for that reason, when we've been in these restrictive times, we've actually just decided, let's just close the cafe and close the coffee side of the business, and just focus on plant sales and doing projects and upgrading things. But yes, on the food side, when we're open, it's cactus ice cream, cactus cake. We do nachos with chili con carne, veg chili, pulled pork and pulled beef. It's actually dangerous living here on site. And then we've made some pretty cool products, like the cactus cider that we made with Cheeky Grog Co. So they're a cidery that's just up the road near Shepparton at Bunbartha. And they're open to the public as well. They do wood-fired pizzas, and they've got a huge range of ciders, and we supplied them with the fruit, and they mixed it with some of their apple cider, and it's got this amazingly vibrant color, and it sells out so quick, it's crazy.
Cool. Yeah, so many different ways of promoting it. It's awesome.
Yeah, there is, and as you can hear, even just in that, there's so many people that we've already collaborated with, whether it be Phil Withers and Clint Branston and Graham Rowe, who you interviewed. He came down with Podgy and with Graham Ross. And so, we've really been lucky to have built this amazing network of people that we collaborate with.
I saw Dami Im did a film clip out there as well.
Yeah, that was crazy. So that was Boxing Day. They came in, and I went down the front and opened the gate for them, and they came in, and it was a really stinking hot day, and there was 3 of them, and they just out there all day shooting in the hot sun and all the costume changes. And yeah, it was, Mum and Dad were super excited. They were like, I can't believe Dami Im's coming. I was like, who's Dami Im? I had to look her up, and then I was like, oh wow, she's really good, and she's got a massive following. And yeah, I don't have free-to-air TV, so I don't see a lot of stuff that a lot of people culturally see all the time. And so I had to do a bit of educating before she came, so I didn't embarrass myself with not knowing who she was.
I find it fascinating, like just any TV show or anything like that, like working at the garden show while Better Homes and Gardens were there. It was the first time I saw it, but the amount of recording that they do compared to what actually goes to air.
I know.
It's crazy.
We had Tourism Australia here for this campaign. That's when this photo was taken, and they spent a whole day in the garden and made a 1-minute clip. And you just go like, what? Like, send us that footage. We'll use it. We'll use all of your offcuts. But, you know, that's the way the videography world works. And I've always had the idea, and I'm pretty entrepreneurial. I think one day I'll do this idea, is to start a social media company and essentially have a full creative suite that's underneath, you know. So if I was going to go shoot a video for Tourism Australia, then I would take all of the offcuts and I would create multiple videos and multiple stories and multiple photos, and I would deliver something that was well and truly, it would be a much bigger scope. Because what I've noticed with social media, and I hope this helps some people who are following your podcast, is that there's actually quality subjective. A lot of people don't post something because they're worried that people won't like it. The photos often that I've thought would be the least worth posting have sometimes done the best. So you can never judge it. You never know what's going to work. And the other thing with the quality being subjective is, I'll go out there when I've got 5 minutes between meetings and do a quick video, and it'll get, you know, 100,000 reach on Facebook. And the production and execution time is literally less than 5 minutes. But people are afraid that if they don't spend half an hour to an hour curating the perfect post, that nobody's going to like it, or it's going to diminish their brand. People love connecting with the story and the experience. So shoot more, shoot more, shoot more. And if you've got a videography team on site and they can shoot it in high quality, and they've got the visual eye of capturing the landscape in a way that you maybe can't capture with your iPhone, then once again, if you can get quantity over one specific quality little piece, then I think over time that's going to do far better than, you know, like that Tourism Australia video is the most incredible promo video you could ever get. And if I post that on socials, it'll do almost nothing compared to what my video with an iPhone will do. It's not even close. Yeah. So
yeah, I agree.
Quantity over quality.
Yeah. And because I'll do, like, I don't care about if I do a post and it gets 10 likes, I don't care. I'll still do another one the next time I plan on doing it.
Yeah.
But there'll be times I think, oh yeah, this photo is going to do well because it's like a finished product. They generally do better. They might do right, but then there's times where they don't. And then I'll post one just because I like posting regularly and think, there's nothing good about it, but I'll post it anyway, and then it goes nuts for some reason. So yeah, you can't tell. And not everyone's going to see every post you do, so there's no point trying to get too fancy over it.
That is a big part as well. And then if you really want to succeed on the platforms, it's about being contextual to the platform itself. Is like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok are all very different audiences. And if you try and do the same thing on every platform, it's just not going to work. So if you want to get really good, it's about, who am I talking to here? What do they do? Why would they be interested in this? Reverse engineer that and deliver something that's going to actually brighten up their day. And you're going to have a far different result to if you're trying to shove your experience down people's throats in the wrong way on the wrong platform. Yeah.
I saw on your personal page that you posted a couple of NFT projects on there.
Oh yeah.
I've seen it a little bit, but I don't quite understand how people are selling them for the crazy prices that they're going for. But are you have you purchased any?
Yeah, I purchased 2, and it's a crazy project, and there's no way that I would have predicted the growth that it's had. But it was, I don't know whether you've heard of Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk, but I bought into his NFT project. I picked up a Hangout Hawk and a FaceTime Fly at floor price. So that was a reverse Dutch auction. So it was basically the price started high, and when it reached the bottom price, that was the cheapest you could buy it. So I bought them both for 3 Ethereum, which at the time was about $9,500 each. And they're worth a bit over $150,000 each now. And I did that back in May. So I was just like, whoa, cannot believe that. And now he's just announced that VCon's going to be in Minnesota in May. So I'm trying to figure out how to go to the States in May. So fingers crossed I can pull that off. And being part of that project, Gary V teamed up with Avastars, which was another collectible NFT project. And Jimmy, who runs that project, helped Gary V create his NFT project through a website called Nameless, which is essentially, it's a website you can use to build your own NFT project. And yeah, so I managed to score a free Avastar out of that, which is worth about $1,000 US. So I paid nothing for that, just a little bit of transaction fee. And then being a part of this community of people who do crypto trading, which is cryptocurrencies, is sort of like a whole nother world of its own. But there's like this whole push towards decentralized finance and investing, and there's yield staking, and there's like, it's the terminology, it's like another language.
Yeah.
But once you get your head around it and understand what it is, what people are trying to achieve, it'd be like buying into Amazon in the early days for some of these projects, because they're literally companies that are going to do something revolutionary in this new world of the web, which they're calling the Web 3.0. And yeah, I think there's some really exciting opportunities if you do your research. Like I've probably put in for the last 2 months, maybe 20 to 30 hours a week, just researching cryptocurrencies and watching what the markets are doing. And yeah, I think I've made some good money there anyway, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's worked out all right.
And potentially it'll keep going up as well.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at it as a really long-term investment, so I'm not looking to pull it out anytime soon. Every time the market crashes, I just buy more. So yeah, just keep investing, and then in a few years' time, I'll be able to sell it out and retire, I'd say.
Very good.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Whatever retirement is for me.
Yeah. I saw, I think, is it Beeple who had the one that was sold at Christie's?
Yeah, that was massive.
That was a pretty cool looking piece that he sold as well. And I think that was 20 million or something, or was it 60 million?
69 million. So that was a really interesting project because he wasn't that well known. And then I'm a bit of a Joe Rogan podcast fan, and he talked about Beeple. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, his art's really provocative. It's really different. It's like, it's crazy. It's almost like somebody's crazy expression of what's happening in the world. And I was really attracted to it. I've always loved his artwork. And when I saw that just go crazy as an NFT, I just thought that makes a lot of sense to me because it's very culturally relevant. I don't know exactly whether he was successful or not prior to that, but it seems to me like it was one of those hard work pays off over a long time story where he did a new piece of artwork every day for over a year. And then he sold that collection of art, which would have been 365 pieces as an NFT. And I could be wrong on this, but I think he sold the IP to it as well. So whoever the buyer of that collection is can actually profit from it by selling prints of the individual photos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be a pretty substantial investment.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned Joe Rogan, because it doesn't surprise me that you're a fan of his, because I was thinking of him before when you said about doing the recording and then breaking up into different sections, because that's what he does with his podcasts, because he does the podcast on Spotify and then breaks stuff into clips on YouTube to get a different audience.
Mate, it all makes sense to me. It's just it is a no-brainer. And I mean, like, if I was you, I'd be doing the same thing. Is just like little clips that you pull out that were your favorite parts of the show, and that's really just the ad or the preview to what the whole show is going to be about. And man, like doing podcasts, it's the evolution of what I need to do with my socials, and I can't wait to get Dad on camera doing some gardening show in the garden as well, because I just think like it's limitless. But there's only so many hours in the day, and I think you initially have to prioritize where you spend your time, but I can't wait. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I think with podcasts, with social media, there's a lot of I don't know, you could have a lot of people who follow, but they don't follow, if you know what I mean? Like they're not hardcore fans, but with podcasts, they're more of a targeted audience. They're actually specifically interested in, because they're spending the time to listen to it or watch it.
Totally agree. Well, I listen to your podcast while I'm out on the tractor or out on the machine doing work or doing some landscaping. And it's good because you're interviewing people about what they're passionate about, which is in my industry. And even though I'm not a landscaper or a designer, I want to have enough skills eventually to be able to do something. I know I'll never have the creativity and drive for it that Dad has, but you know, like I've got some indoor plants here, and you know, I want to start landscaping around my own house. So I want to learn these things over time, and I think listening to your podcast it's inspiring me that some of these people figured it out as they went, or really challenged themselves and pushed themselves to get to where they are. So I think it makes it seem possible.
Yeah, I find it fascinating as well, hearing different ways people go about it. Like that, so there's people who started, you know, their family were involved in the industry, so they just continued on from there, like you are. And then there's other people who did a completely different industry, and then tried landscaping and then grew from there. So it's sort of like anyone can do it. You just got to put in the time.
Oh, I totally agree.
There's no such thing as too
late. And it seems that there's patterns to it as well. And I've started to see that more so in the way that Dad landscapes, that there's a pattern to the way he does things, and he doesn't necessarily replicate it a lot, but it does seem like I'm starting to see some similar ways that he does things. But yeah, he's just like, I'm more creative in business. Like if you tell me a business idea or tell me a business that you need to market, I'll be able to quickly come up with a great way to market it, or to think of different business ideas around a subject, which I think is its own version of creativity. Whereas he's visually creative. Like I'll see him walk past a space for a month, and then one day it'll click, and all of a sudden, it's a week later, the place is transformed, and you just go, wow, how does he do that? But and maybe it is just a part of, if you're passionate about something and you're really trying to figure out a way to do something, that eventually it clicks into place. But it just seems like he's got something special that I haven't seen in a lot of landscapers.
Yeah, I was talking to another landscaper yesterday. So I'm predominantly in landscape construction, and he's the same. And I was talking to him about how, like, some landscape designers, they've just got a talent that you can't be taught. You've either got it or you don't. So I can do designs, and you know, people could think it looks nice, but then when I see a designer do a design, they'll put something in there. I think, I don't know how they thought of that, but that's amazing. So,
that's cool.
I wish I had that, but unfortunately, some people have got skills that others don't. Yeah.
And look, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either, because I think it takes all types to make the world. And I think that, like we were talking about with social media earlier, everything's subjective. Sometimes Dad does something that I don't like, and we argue about it. And you know, then sometimes he creates a masterpiece, and I just think, well, how's he done that? But yeah, I think it's subjective, isn't it? Like, what's visually pleasing to me, you might hate, and vice versa.
Exactly. Yep. So what's next with Cactus Country? Like, I saw you doing some renovations as well.
Yeah. We're doing a massive cementing project at the moment, so that'll be a nice big space to fit another 400 people in during COVID. So I don't know how many will fit in there post-COVID, but he's created these new courtyards on the other side of the commercial kitchen, and that'll allow us to do weddings and night tours or events at the same time. So we'll have to get Clint down with the band and have a big gig when New South Wales opens up. And so that's the project that's not far off completion. Dad's built this big Star Wars dome on top of the hill as a lookout, and it's become a real feature in the photography that's happening around the garden. So we're pretty excited to do a bit more work to that and finish it off. Our first relocatable accommodation's coming soon, so it's going to go over next to my house, and I'm just looking out the window to the west at the moment, and there's a massive scrapyard of metal and old farm machinery from our farming days that I've been selling off and clearing so that it's ready for this relocatable to come and create a beautiful view, not like there's stuff everywhere. It's crazy. So yeah, that's really exciting. It's 2 shipping containers together, and so it's quite a boutique, almost luxury accommodation with a skylight in the bedroom. So at night, people will be able to see the stars. The stars out here is a big feature because we don't have any light pollution. So at night, the whole sky is lit up. It's just, it's another world in its own right. And so, yeah, that'll be cool. And we're waiting to hear back from the bank. There's another property up the road with some accommodation on it that we'd love to get as well. It's only 12 minutes away. It's got another function centre, so we'll be able to run weddings out there as well as accommodate guests from weddings here at Cactus Country. So that's another big project that I'll probably have a bit more involvement in initially. I'll go live out there. It's down by the Murray River. There's a lot of bushland. It's an absolutely gorgeous spot. And then throughout the gardens, there's an area in the South American gardens there's 4 big gum trees. So it creates this beautiful shady area, and the cacti don't do as well under there because the lack of light, and they get drowned out by the falling gum leaves. And so we're going to clear that area out and turn it into a picnic space. And then next to that is a shade house. And so that epiphyllum house, so epiphyllums are more jungle plants. So they're used to growing under big canopies of trees. So they'll do really well in terms of shade, a bit more of a cooler climate. Even in the summer, it's a lot cooler under there. And so Dad's got a big project idea of how he'll link that epiphyllum house into the picnic area and the trees. So that's a big project, which that's actually one of the ones I'm most looking forward to, because there's not a lot of places around the garden where we could do something with almost 360-degree views of the garden, where people could sit, relax and enjoy it, and just spend more time in the garden. Because, you know, in summer we can get 40-degree plus days, and if there was somewhere out there that you could really soak it all in and be comfortable, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. You've recently done the website as well. Like, I jumped on there before just to do a bit of research on it, and I saw the information booklet that you've got is crazy, the amount of actual information you got on there. So how long did that take to do?
Mum was a school teacher, so so we got really lucky in terms of the skills set that we've got in the business. But she did that really early days, and it's really developed and evolved over time. It would have started out as a fairly basic booklet that's now become, like you say, it's pretty involved. And, you know, as I was talking about earlier, Dad's got one of the biggest cactus collections in the world. So one day we'll probably catalogue the garden to show people what all of these plants could look like if you grew them in the wild or grew them in the ground, because a lot of cactus collectors still have their collections in pots, and so they never get to see the true size or scale that some of these plants can get to. But, you know, we've got 150 acres, so we'll just keep putting them out. And I think Dad's got about 20,000 seedlings growing at the moment. So, and I reckon that's small scale compared to what he could do. And when I say 20,000 seedlings, I mean, there's probably 500 of them that'll be extremely rare plants that potentially no one in the world has. He's at the forefront of cactus breeding, which is really exciting, because he's getting coloured plants, he's getting like crested stuff that normally doesn't crest, he's getting like really weird anomalies in cacti. And so that's super exciting. He's like got a little science lab over there where he cross-pollinates plants, and he'll collect pollen and propagate it with something that flowers at a different time. So he started cataloguing all that as well, and it's something he's investing a lot more time in these days than he's ever been able to in the past. And he was showing me around the other day, and it absolutely blows my mind what's possible with cactus breeding. So yeah, it's exciting to see what the possibilities are, because I don't think that's something that a lot of people have really tapped into yet.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like, when I studied, because I studied a year of horticulture before, I did landscaping, and propagation was my favourite subject.
Oh, really?
I'd thought of all the different things I would try if I knew what I was doing, like more so in tissue culture. But yeah, it'd be fascinating to see what you could do.
It's fascinating as well, because Dad's got a seemingly very logical brain and a creative brain, and so to have that mix where he's like, I wonder if that plant, I wonder if it's possible to cross-pollinate it with that plant. And then over time, he's trial and error, And now he's really excited, and I think he wishes that he had a lot more years left, because he's gotten it to a point now where he's like, oh my God, this knowledge I've got, I can finally use, and I've got time to do it. And he's trying to do it all as quick as he can. So yeah, it'd be exciting. I think the next 10 years is going to be so cool.
Yeah. It sounds like you struggle to think of what you're going to do next. There's so many different things that you're going to do.
Yeah, and that's right. And so I think for me, wanting to take over the business, for me, it's really now about getting the fundamental pieces in place. Like, I made a bit of a checklist today of who I feel like the fundamental people we need in the business are in the future. And it's like a weddings and events planner. It's a high quality chef. It's somebody to do that propagation work and really start to take on all of this experience and knowledge that Dad has, because Dad's dedicated his life to it. So there's almost like you probably need 2 or 3 people that Jim's mentoring over the next 10 years, so that somebody's an expert in propagation, and somebody's an expert in landscaping, and somebody's an expert in more of the sculpture and design work that he does. So yeah, he's just, I don't know whether we'll ever find those people, but if they're out there and if they're interested, they should definitely send us an email, because I think it's going to be an exciting journey working here for the next 10 years. I think we'd love to bring some passionate people along for the journey with us now.
Yeah, and again, talking about plant people, like especially ones who are into succulents, they are the type of people who exist. There's plenty of them. So
totally. Well, I remember Graham Rowe saying something, and I'll second that, is people who have come from other industries who then end up in landscaping. Like one of them was talking about it. It might have been Rowe and somebody else, but they were saying about how chefs who come into landscaping later in life are like some of the hardest workers you'll ever find. And I agree, like whatever happens in chef school and having to run a kitchen, just you've got to handle stress, you've got to be creative on the fly, you've got to problem solve. Like, yeah, there's certain industries that overlap well, and that's one of them.
Yeah. And do you get any school excursions that go to Cactus Country?
Yeah, actually Nathalia, which is about 30 minutes away, they've got a really good high school program, and they bring a lot of school groups out here, and they'll always just let me know when they're coming, and if I've got time, I'll go out and talk to the groups. And they bring photographers. Sometimes I'll do like biology. We can show them, all right, we're going to take some gum leaves off a plant, off a tree, and we're going to put them in a plastic bag and then sit it in the sun. And then moments later, there's water condensating on the bag. Take a cactus, cut an arm off, put it in a bag, nothing happens. Why? So, that's the difference, is cacti are used to desert conditions. So if the conditions aren't right, they're not going to go through photosynthesis. They're not going to use that energy. They're going to wait. So they're going to store the sun's energy during the day, and then at night, they're going to do photosynthesis with what they've already stored. And that's going to allow them to save moisture, because they need to survive long periods of droughts. And so, yeah, like stuff like that you can show people, and it's visual. And it's, so if you're a kinesthetic learner or somebody who needs to see things to understand them, that really shows you there's a bag with water on it and there's a bag without water on it. And that's why.
Yeah, I think that'd be an awesome thing to do for schools to send kids out there, because I can't remember who I spoke to, but same as succulents, the landscaping industry, most people don't know about it, and when they understand about it, there's a lot more people who enjoy it than what they do who don't know. So it'd be
it's a great industry, and I don't think that it's been popularized enough. Like as in, like, everybody wants to be a bloody entrepreneur these days, or everybody wants to be an Instagram model, and I've got nothing against it. Like, do what makes you happy, but I see a lot of people these days doing things that don't make them happy to try and create a facade that it's who they are when it's not. And I think a lot of people would enjoy the landscape industry, but it doesn't have that cool ring to it that people really want to do it. But it's probably something that would make a lot of people happier than their current day job.
Yeah, and I think succulents are the cool plants in the plant world, I think, as well.
And you'd see that as well, even not necessarily with the landscape business owners or the people who operate landscaping businesses, but in the guys that work in the teams that are on site, and how rewarding it is to go to a place that looks like a bombshell's hit it and transform it into something that, like, I don't know whether anybody else had to mow their lawns as a kid, but even that, just seeing a mowed lawn go from being this ugly backyard to just being a beautifully cut grass, there's something about it that's very rewarding. And you don't get that in a lot of industries.
Yeah, I remember real early on, the old man got me to mow the lawn. I didn't want to do it, but afterwards I loved it, but not enough to want to do it again. But I do remember having that satisfaction of thinking, oh, that actually looks awesome what I've done. And I was like 9. It does. And one of the problems I find is when you're working on a job, when you're working in it, you don't appreciate it as much as if you would if you saw it at the start and saw it at the finish. So sometimes you've got to sit back and take some time to actually appreciate what you've done.
That's a big thing we've started doing in the last few years is stopping and smelling the roses is what we call it. But it's just basically like during our farming days where we were trying to run and operate a massive commercial farm and try and build this business that was a hobby that we wanted to be the main business that we could do, we didn't have time to stop and appreciate things. If you finished a job and you had 5 minutes, you went and did another job, and you collapse into bed at night and you get up early and do it again. So we got into this real mindset of always going and doing the next thing. And after a while, I think it was me or Julie who eventually said, like, hey guys, we've accomplished something pretty incredible here and we need to appreciate it. And so now when cool things happen or we win an award or something, like, we try and celebrate it in some small way and just stop and appreciate things a bit more. Because I think that's a really important component of life. You've got to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, 1,000%. Like I've at the moment we're really struggling with the amount of work we've got to do. We're way behind, and I only just thought of it the other day that it's starting to feel like work because I'm trying to get everything done, and we're just trying to get it done rather than trying to do things as best as we can. So luckily, I realised that before anything happened. But yeah, you can get into a bit of a rut and just try and do things as fast as you can to keep people happy. But then you end up, if you don't do it properly, you're going to have to go back and it'll take longer doing it the second time around.
I agree. And I think that fits into, potentially a bigger topic of meditation, because that in a sense is a form of meditation where you're self-aware enough of your thoughts that you're able to recognize that you were potentially going into doing things that were sub your quality or sub what you expect. And now that you've realized that, it's changed the trajectory of what the outcome will be, but it's also changed your mindset in a positive way where you're going to enjoy the job more.
Yeah. Do you do any meditation? Because I've listened to a fair few podcasts, and there's quite a lot of. It's a lot more popular now than what it used to be. I've considered doing it.
I really how do I put this? So I meditate. Yes, I am very self-aware. I'm very cognizant of I live in my head a lot, so I think that really helps. I think I've got a natural ability to analyze why I'm feeling a certain way or why I'm thinking a certain thing. This morning's a great example. I was really frustrated after a conversation I had. I went for a walk, and so you might call it clearing your head, but I really made a conscious effort of knowing that I wasn't in a great mood and knowing what I wanted to change that mood into being. And I now understand myself well enough that I can change that feeling to a positive one from a negative one. And so I don't know whether you call that meditation or whether you just call that clearing your head, but that's a lot easier now than it ever was. And I find myself doing that a lot, is just like stopping seemingly for just moments of it at a time when I catch myself going into a negative spiral and just quickly pulling myself out of it. Because if you become aware enough, then you realize that you don't have to let things affect you negatively all the time. You can actually just change it.
Yeah, I've had a similar thing happen where I used to, something would happen and my head would go red just with anger, and I would sort of let that out straight away. And then I find if you wait a day or a certain amount of time, it's not as big a deal as what you think. So the same deal. Like I don't do meditation, but you start to get that self-awareness, like I said, and realize that things aren't as big a problem as what they first seem. Like it's like there's a saying, it's something I'll probably butcher it, but things aren't as good as they seem, and things aren't as bad as they seem.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think it's amazing. It's almost like a chemical thing in your brain. Is like sometimes you just naturally feel good, and sometimes you just naturally feel not good or pessimistic or negative or something. And it's like recognizing that and recognizing that you can change it it's a really when it's almost like when you get to that point, then having a bad day almost becomes a choice. If you're having a bad day, it's because you're choosing to have a bad day, not because you have to have a bad day.
Yeah, I wonder whether that's that kind of mindset, because I have, it sounds like we've got a similar kind of mindset, and I don't know if it's because I used to listen to Gary Vee a lot, and that's kind of the stuff
I think that's been a huge help. Yeah.
But I wonder whether that's something that's almost like a designer being good at something. Like some people might not be able to have that mindset, maybe, which would be unfortunate.
I wonder how much is genetic and how much is environment. Like as a kid, I got bullied a lot. And I think that became a great strength of mine, that as a kid, I got bullied and I became very insular. And even dad's been very tough on me over the years about doing things a certain way or always getting stuff wrong, or, he's been really hard on me and really negative. And so that's actually become a great strength of mine, is that now I'm at a point where I don't need external validation from anyone. Like if somebody says, oh, wow, that's amazing, you did a great job, or if somebody says that's horrible, you should be totally ashamed of yourself, neither affect me. And so, it's weird. It even sounds wanky just to say it out loud because it doesn't sound real, but I've really worked hard at it because it really affected me emotionally. Like other people's judgment used to upset me enormously. Like in my farming days, I'd come in, I'd like be bawling my eyes out to mum because I was so frustrated at the world. And so, I'd quit the farm and I'd go travel overseas and get my shit together, and then I'd come back and have another crack at it. And, I don't need to do that anymore. It's like I can see the patterns and I can see what's happening, and then I can change it before it becomes bad or dramatically bad.
Yeah, again, exactly the same. I had a couple of years ago, I remember one of my kids was getting like someone at school said something bad about him. I said, well, who's the kid who said it? And they said who they are. I said, but who are they though? Well, like, who cares what they say? Like, there's another person there. They don't mean anything. So who cares what their opinion is of you? It's easier said than done.
Even now, like looking back and interacting with kids who made my life a misery when I was in high school, I'm actually not even remotely upset at them anymore. Like, I actually think that I had this realization this morning. Actually, I was like, you couldn't pay for that kind of education, as in like you couldn't pay somebody to create that kind of trauma to help you get to that kind of realization in life. And so I actually feel like being bullied was one of the greatest advantages that I ever got in life, because now it's led me to make these realizations that have actually made my life way more enjoyable than it probably ever could have been. And I got it out of the way when I was young. I didn't have to wait until I was 60 to figure it out. So yeah, I'm pretty grateful. I'm just always so inspired by people who go through really horrible things in life and are able to find a way out and turn it into their superpower or into a positive, rather than let it destroy their lives, because it's just so easy to let negative things control you.
Exactly. Yeah. And being able to help out other people as well is, it's obviously bad things aren't ideal to happen, but it can be a gift if you can help other people. So there's some
I love
good people out there.
Yeah, there really are. I'd say I'm pretty optimistic, but I would say there's more good out there than bad.
Oh,
But I think a lot of people think that there's more bad than good. And I think, sure, if you watch the news every day and look for the negative things in life, you're always going to find them. But go out into your community and do something nice for somebody yourself, and you'll start to see that there's a lot of good in the world.
Yep. Again, that comes back to the mindset. You could, the world can be as bad as you think it is, but if you actually look into it, there's some amazing things that happen every day. Some great people helping out other people.
Totally. And how good to be working with nature. It just feels like that's a piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're pretty lucky to be able to work outside, because the amount of times you hear people saying that, to help their mental health, I think need to work outside or something like that. And that's what we get to do every day, getting some vitamin D.
Correct. And the sun's out today. I'm looking forward to getting out on the mower.
Yeah, I can imagine up where you are. So you're on the border of the Murray. So you'd be having some hot days in the summer and cold days in winter at night.
Yeah, I think the hottest we've had is about 48.6. I remember one zucchini season year, we had 3 weeks over 40 degrees. It was horrific. And in the winter, it probably only gets down to -2, -3 at the worst. But we had a really warm winter this year. So the aloe flowers that would normally get burnt off during the winter, they're still looking really good. So this will be the first time I can remember seeing still full aloe flowers in September that aren't, there's burnt flowers at the bottom, and then at the top it's got like post-frost color, and now they're all yellow or all orange. So it's a pretty gorgeous year.
Do you ever get into a bit of a quandary wanting rain for the zucchini and squash, but not to rot the cactus?
Well, we had a really advanced irrigation system. So we got a government grant to put in water sensors and drip irrigation. And so one thing I'm looking for is, and hopefully there's some people who watch your podcast that are interested, is we've got, I think, around 50 blocks with a pipe riser in the middle of a 1 hectare block. And that was set up specifically for vegetable production to run drip irrigation. And so it's a great opportunity, I think, for people to come here and start up a micro farm and grow leafy vegetables or zucchini, squash, whatever you want to grow, and do it at a big enough scale to make some money, and a small enough scale that you can do it as a couple, and just enjoy a community of people who are like-minded, who also want to grow fresh produce and go to markets, and I don't know, just be a farmer. I reckon there'd be a lot of people in the city who'd want to get out and start a new pursuit in life, and this could be a good opportunity.
Yeah, definitely more so now than 18 months ago as well, I reckon.
Yeah, big time. I'm meeting more and more people who have moved to the country and reckon it's the best thing they've ever done, because, like, for me, I get out of bed and I walk to work, like walk out the back door, I'm on the job. And, I'm like sitting here in my office at the moment, but yeah, I think that's like when I had that factory job, I used to have to travel for 45 minutes to an hour to Bayswater, I think it was. And it was just horrible. I hated it because everybody's tooting their horns and they're angry, and you look at the traffic coming towards you and everybody looks miserable. And I turn up to work and, everybody's happy and enjoying what they're doing. So it's a different environment for sure.
Yeah. It sounds like an amazing place to be, so I can't wait till I get up there. But I can't thank you enough for coming on today and sharing all your knowledge about it.
Thanks, Joel. No worries. Yeah, and if people want to find me on socials, Cactus Country on Instagram, and at Cactus Country Oz on Facebook. And me personally, I'm john.f.hall on Instagram, and that's probably where I'm most active. And then you can find me on Facebook as well if you're really keen to connect.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it.